Good day YouTube. Today's video I'm going to talk about some updates and upgrades to my PvP build set. I've decided to just take a relook at my build because a lot of people, especially the sorcerers, are running Rallying Cry as well as Wretched Vitality on a 2-bar set. Rallying Cry poses as a bit of an issue for me because since it's meta and it gives you crit resistance, so I often encounter PvP players with a lot of stacked crit resistance on them as well as their teammates benefiting from this group stack buff. So I would have to relook at my crit sock build because essentially if my fundamental output is critical damage, I'm going to run into a lot of nerfs and a lot of unpleasant situations if everybody around me has very high crit resistance. I would not be able to get the outcome and the output that I so desire. So relooking at the 5-piece set which I can change up, I've decided to look at this. Okay, this set has been around for a bit of a time, like maybe 6 to 7 months, and I initially wanted to avoid using this set because the name just pisses me off. Oakfather's Retribution. This is a direct diss and throwing shade at Oaken Soul users. And if you were to look at the attributes of this stat-based set, right, it offers a lot of weapon and spell damage for 2, 3, and 4 items. And once you equip 5 of these bad boys, you gain 449 offensive penetration against enemies for each major buff they have active, and 20 weapon and spell damage against enemies for each minor buff that they have active. So straight away you know that this set is meant to counter Oaken Soul users, and when you fight against or come up against 1-bar users, and there are a lot of them, you would naturally get a little bit of an upper hand, right? Just because of all these stats that come your way. Now, Oaken Soul users, how many buffs do you have? So let's take a look at my statistics. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 buffs all together. Possibly half of them are major and half of them are minor. Let's count. If I have 18 buffs altogether, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are major. So that means I have 12 minor and 6 major. And if I were to study the stats from the Oakfather, okay, so I would have about 2000 plus additional offensive penetration, and then maybe 12 times 20 would be about 200 plus addition weapon and spell damage against Oaken Soul enemies, right? This is a big deal actually, and even if you're not an Oaken Soul user, I believe you would have the same number of buffs because that is what you want to have when you go into a PvP situation or a PvE situation. Okay, first and foremost, we have to understand that the Oakfather's Retribution set is a light armor set. There are no heavy nor medium variations of it, which is unfortunate. And since you have this constraint, it is important to know how you can then permutate this set with perhaps some of your other existing build sets, 3-piece set or 1-piece set, to work together in an optimal fashion. Now for the chest, if you're a 1-bar user, you will know that it is imperative that for your chest piece, it needs to be heavy. You will tend to be very flaky and very glass cannon if you do not have a heavy piece that is with the reinforced trait in order to add to your spell and your physical resistance. So for that purpose alone, I use the trainee over here. If you are a 1-bar user, you definitely have to use a 1-piece trainee to get the maximum health, right? So I would put that here in the chest. And for the belt, the boots, the breeches, and the gloves, I would use the Oakfather's Retribution. I think the enchantment doesn't really matter lah. You can use either magical or stamina, or you can have multi-effect lah. Because of the fact that this is light armor now, I switch it up. I have some in divines, some reinforced, one infused, and another one in divine, just to rotate around the qualities. You can have all of them divine. Okay, for the jewelry set, I need to put in my agility set, right? So I have the necklace of agility as well as the ring of agility, multi-effect enchantment as far as possible, and then after that infuse trait for bang of your buck. Oaken Soul ring, I use dual wield. So for one of the X would be the Oakfather's Retribution in sharpened trait, because spell and physical penetration is important, and the other X would be the agility, and I use Nunhone in this case for increased damage of the weapon. Poison, Up to you to choose. I use the one that Zos provides. You can go for those poison that breaks you out of CC and makes you immune of CC. Yeah, alright. Also for food itself, I go for the Crown Fortifying Meal. Obviously the Sugar Skulls will be the better option, and if you have money, just go ahead and use that. Then the potion, I use Crown Tri Restoration Potion because it's just good enough for me to get all my 3 resources back, right? Also gives me 3 additional major buffs at the same time, and it ups my recovery. Now for the monster set itself, right, I go for the Bread and Butter Engine Guardian set. Now because resource management will be a serious problem for 1-bar users, if you use Oaken Sword you will know, Engine Guardian will be the one that will really rescue you from very difficult situations. When you use an ability that costs resource, you have 25% chance to summon a droid that will restore 550 stamina magicka or 2151 health to you every 0.5 seconds for 6 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. I use heavy for both in order to just make myself a little tankier, and divine trait as well for both the head set as well as the shoulder set. Okay, not much change when it comes to champion points. Backstabber for crit damage, Ironclad to up my defense, Master at Arms to increase my direct damage, Fighting Finesse for some more critical damage, Sustained by Suffering so that my recovery gets a buff, Celerity, movement is always important, Survival Instincts, once I have a status effect, my spells and skills will cost less, and Pain's Refuge, once I take damage, it will reduce the damage that I take by 20%. So yeah, bread and butter, no change in this case. Let's look at the skills. Alright, skills are important. So I have the Streak, the Crystal Frag, the Silver Shards, the Twilight Matriarch, as well as the Haunting Curse and the Power Overload. You will notice that I have a strong palette of Sorcerer skills. I have a representative from each class so that I optimize the number of passives that I will be able to get from each particular class. Streak is for me to stun my opponents so that because I use Dual Wield, when they are stunned and immobilized, my spell and weapon damage increases by 15%, as you can see over here in the Ruffian trait, right? Okay, Crystal Frags and Silver Shards, they are my 2 spammables because of resource management. I want to use stamina spammable primarily, and when my stamina drop to about 20%, I will switch to a Crystal Frag, which is my magical spammable, so I do not drain any one of my resource to 0, which would be detrimental when you are in a PvP battle. Now, Twilight Matriarch is the choice that I make over the shield. The shield receives a nerf in this current patch update 44, and even in the earlier patches, right, I find that with my lag, whenever I summon a shield, the shield will be down in about 2 to 3 seconds when I'm under heavy fire. But with a pet, the amount of healing that the pet deals to both me as well as my teammates, it is ginormous. And when your teammates are healthy, you will stay healthy because then they will help you as well. So it is important to be able to heal your teammates at the same time. Now in Battlegrounds, there are many situations where I've crawled to the top of the leadership board only because I get a lot of crit healing for my teammates. So just spamming the healing ability on the Twilight Matriarch grants me a lot of points in BG. Now, a secondary thing which I don't think has been mentioned a great deal, right, is that the Twilight Matriarch actually behaves as a sort of shield for you because there's so much fucking lag going on in this game and skills not going off. Chances are your opponents will be using the mouse in a very frenzied fashion and they wouldn't really be aiming at you properly. And as a result, most of the attacks or half of the attacks will be directed onto your pet instead of you. And as a result, then you will not be under the heavy fire that you are supposed to be under. Same thing for the Engine Guardian. When my droid procs, the droid actually takes quite a lot of the damage that my enemy is trying to summon upon me as well. So with these two elements just flying around in front of you, they act as a sort of auxiliary shield and they are incredibly useful in any PvP context. Haunting Curse, any sorcerer worth their salt will tell you this is the best one-shot skill that you have. It does an incredible amount of damage. So I will then start to talk about rotation of my skills because of the Haunting Curse. I stay hidden because of the Vampire passive, right? It increases my spell damage for about 4 seconds, and then I would launch my Haunting Curse at an unsuspecting opponent. I will also use and trigger my Power Overload because I can still stay hidden in that process. After that, I will use Streak to stun my opponent and get that 15% increase in damage. At about that time, in 3.5 seconds, the first Haunting Curse would have procced, and that would deal 13k worth of damage, close to 14k. And if you crit, then you're talking about a whole lot of damage being done. I would then start to weave and spam the Power Overload as well as my Silver Shards onto the unsuspecting enemy. I get great results this way. If the enemies survive most of your Power Overload attack, just retreat, go into hidden mode, streak away, and then let your resources recover again, right? Or join back your teammates if you are in the battleground. So okay, that's about it for me. I think we can look at some of the gameplay to illustrate how my rotations work, how this particular build works best in the Battleground as well as Imperial City. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you and goodbye.